Imagine standing in a Roman legion after a lost battle. You do not know who will die. You only know that one of you will die for certain. The commander orders the men to line up, names are drawn, and those chosen by fate are not met with death from the enemy, but death at the hands of their own comrades. This was the discipline that built an empire, a system of punishments that turned ordinary men into soldiers willing to die rather than retreat. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you to subscribe. It's a small thing, but it really helps this channel. And now, back to the video. The harshest punishment a Roman legionary could face as an individual was fustuarium. If a soldier failed on night watch, abandoned his post, stole something in camp, lied before a military court, or committed a disgraceful act, he did not face an ordinary execution. First, he was brought before the tribunes. If the sentence was passed, the tribune touched him only symbolically with a staff. That was the beginning. In that moment, the entire camp turned on the condemned man. The soldiers beat him with clubs, struck him with whatever they had at hand, and hurled stones at him. That was how they killed him on the spot, in front of everyone else, so that all could see what awaited the man who endangered the order of the entire legion. What made this punishment truly horrifying was one thing. It was not the enemy who killed you, but the very men you had marched with, eaten with, and slept beside in the same camp. Rome was sending a brutally clear message: betray discipline, and you are dead. And even if, by some miracle, a man managed to survive the chaos and escape, he was still not safe. According to Polybius, such a man could not return home safely, his family was not allowed to take him in, and his life was essentially destroyed. He was no longer a soldier, he was marked forever. Fustuarium did not threaten only ordinary soldiers. If the commander of a watch or an optio failed, passed on orders badly, and because of that the guard fell asleep or failed in its duty, the same punishment awaited him as well. That is exactly why night watches in a Roman camp were so uncompromising. Everyone knew that a single mistake would not bring just punishment, but a slow, public, and humiliating death. The Roman army did not rely only on large and bloody punishments. There were also smaller corporal punishments, which in practice were not small at all. Tribunes could impose fines and order the flogging of the guilty man. Centurions, in turn, carried the vites, a vine staff that was not only a symbol of rank, but also a common instrument of punishment. When a centurion struck, it was not just a symbolic reprimand. It was a hard and painful reminder that discipline in the legion was not enforced with words, but with force. Punishment came immediately, directly, and often with real pain. While fustuarium was an extreme penalty, the vitis belonged to everyday reality. A soldier did not live only in fear of one great execution. He lived in a system where disobedience could hurt him almost every single day. When it was not one man who failed, but a larger group, Rome turned to punishments designed to break the entire unit at once. The most infamous and terrifying of them was decimation. A unit that had behaved cowardly, collapsed in battle, or failed as a group was divided into smaller sections. Then came the lottery, not an investigation into who was more guilty and who was less. Chance decided. From every group of 10, one man was chosen, and he was not beheaded like a soldier who died with a weapon in his hand. His own comrades beat him to death with clubs. The horror of decimation was not only in the death itself. It was in the waiting. You stand in line beside men you have known for months or years, and you wait to see whether the lot will fall on you. Maybe you were not the first to run, maybe you even fought, but if your unit failed as a whole, you could die too. Rome shattered any sense of personal certainty. A legionary was meant to understand that if his cohort broke, the danger did not end with fleeing the battlefield. It could begin only after returning. Then came the second blow. Those who survived were given barley instead of wheat. today, that may sound like a small detail, but in the Roman army, it was an open mark of shame. Wheat was the normal ration of a soldier. Barley was lower-value grain and a public sign that you had failed. Every bite was a reminder of humiliation. The soldier was not just hungry or dissatisfied. He was marked. Everyone around him could see that he belonged to those who had not stood firm. The third punishment was even more unbearable. The punished men were forced to camp outside the fortified camp, beyond the rampart, in an exposed place. While the others slept behind the wall, beside the fires, and under the protection of the army, they lay outside as a living proof of their own disgrace. It was not just symbolism, it was also a real danger. Without the full protection of the camp, they were more vulnerable to raids, the weather, and the fear of the night. Rome was saying, "You failed. Now feel with your own skin what it means to be without the protection of the legion." It must also be said that decimation was not a common punishment for every failure. Modern research considers it an exceptional extreme measure rather than an everyday practice. That made it even more powerful. It did not have to happen often. It was enough that every soldier knew what it meant. The very idea of the lottery, the clubs, the barley, and the night outside the camp was enough to make a man hold the line, even when every instinct in him was screaming to run. Not all punishments in the Roman legion ended in blood. Many of them were built on shame, loss of status, and long-term humiliation. A soldier could be fined. Part of his pay could be taken away. He could be publicly flogged. He could be assigned to worse duties, humiliated in front of the unit, or demoted. And in the worst case, he could be thrown out of the service with a dishonorable discharge, the so-called missio ignominiosa. That did not mean only leaving the army. It meant that you left without honor, without standing, and with a stain on your name that stayed with you. For a long-serving soldier, that kind of punishment could be just as brutal as a beating. A legionary did not live only for his pay. He lived for status, honor, loot, rewards after service, and the respect of others. If Rome took away his name and reputation, it took away almost everything. That is why even these bloodless punishments had enormous power. They did not kill the body, but they destroyed a man's standing inside the army and beyond it. On top of that, there was the everyday discipline enforced by the centurions. Punishment in the legion did not work in a way where once in a while there was a great execution and then peace in between. It worked without pause. The centurion controlled equipment, food, order, guard duty, marching, and the carrying out of orders. For smaller offenses, he could punish immediately. No long speeches, no discussion. A soldier lived under constant pressure. For a major failure, death or public shame hung over him. For a smaller offense, immediate pain, a deduction from pay, worse duties, or humiliation in front of the others. And it was exactly this combination of punishments that made the Roman legion so solid. Fustuarium was terrifying, decimation even more terrifying. But the real strength of the system came from the fact that between those extremes there was an entire scale of punishments. From the centurion's staff to flogging, fines, and barley rations, all the way to dishonorable discharge. Rome did not punish only to remove the guilty man. It punished so that every other man standing in line knew exactly where the boundary was. And when he crossed it, what awaited him was not only pain. It was shame, loss of name, loss of protection, and in the worst case, death at the hands of his own comrades. For a Roman legionary, punishment did not mean a single threat. It meant an entire chain of punishments surrounding him from every side. He could lose his pay, his rank, his honor, and in the end, even his place among his own men. That was the real strength of Roman discipline. It did not rest on one terrifying punishment or one bloody ritual alone. It rested on the fact that punishment had many forms, and each one hurt in a different way. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you supported it with a comment or a like.